During dinner at my parents' house, my daughter whispered, "Mommy, don't eat that. Grandma put something strange in it." I never imagined those innocent words would change everything I thought I knew about my family. If you enjoy real-life family dramas, hit the like button and subscribe for more compelling stories every week. The drive to my parents' suburban home in Connecticut always felt like traveling through a time portal. Every monthly visit, the 2-hour journey from my apartment in Boston, transported me back to my childhood. The same manicured lawns, the same white picket fences, the same judgmental glances from Mrs. Peterson as she watered her prized roses. Some things never change. My daughter, Lily, bounced excitedly in her car seat, her 7-year-old energy undimmed by the long drive. "Are we there yet, Mom? Will Grandpa let me help with the garden? Can I play with the neighbor's dog?" "Almost there, sweetheart. And yes to the garden, but remember to ask about the dog first." I adjusted the rearview mirror to catch her smile. Since the divorce last year, these visits had become our ritual, a way to maintain some normalcy in our lives. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Don't forget your father's blood pressure medication. He left it there last time." Perfect timing, as I was just passing the pharmacy. Another quick stop, another delay. My mother's passive-aggressive way of reminding me I was perpetually inadequate. When we finally pulled into the driveway, my father was already outside, pruning shears in hand, attacking the hedges with surgical precision. At 68, he maintained the military posture from his Navy days. He put down his tools when he spotted us, his stern face softening at the sight of his granddaughter. "There's my lily pad," he called out, arms wide as Lily broke free from my grasp and ran toward him. My mother appeared at the doorway, perfectly coiffed as always, pearls gleaming against her cashmere sweater despite the warm May afternoon. "Hazel, dear, you're late again." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. I was worried the roast would dry out. "Traffic," I lied, handing her the small paper bag. "Dad's medication." Her perfectly manicured fingers closed around it. "Always the responsible one, aren't you?" The compliment contained just enough barbs to make me wince. Inside, the house smelled of pot roast and furniture polish, a combination that instantly transported me back to Sunday dinners of my youth. Family photos lined the hallway, chronicling my achievements. Graduation, my wedding to David, holding newborn Lily. The timeline stopped abruptly before the divorce. Dinner was served precisely at 6, as it had been for the 40 years my parents had been married. The table settings were immaculate. The good china, crystal glasses, and silverware that required regular polishing. My mother believed proper appearances mattered above all else. "So," my father began, cutting into his roast with mathematical precision. "How's work, Hazel?" "Good. The hospital just approved my research proposal on pediatric trauma response." I tried to keep the pride from my voice, knowing it would be met with measured enthusiasm at best. "Research." My mother nodded, as if the word itself was suspect. "I suppose that's why you look so tired. Women in my day managed to work and still look presentable." I bit back a retort, focusing instead on cutting Lily's meat into smaller pieces. 7 years of motherhood had taught me to choose my battles, especially around my parents. "I made a special dessert," my mother announced, disappearing into the kitchen. "An old family recipe." While she was gone, my father leaned over to Lily. "After dinner, want to see the new birdhouse I built?" Lily nodded enthusiastically, mouth full of mashed potatoes. My mother returned with a tray of delicate crystal dessert cups, each filled with a pale yellow custard. "Lemon posset," she announced proudly. "My grandmother's recipe with a special twist." She placed them around the table, saving mine for last. As she set it before me, I noticed her hand trembling slightly, a small splash of the dessert landing on the pristine tablecloth. She quickly dabbed at it with her napkin, her eyes darting nervously to mine. We all picked up our spoons, but before I could take a bite, Lily tugged at my sleeve and leaned close. "Mommy, don't eat that," she whispered urgently. "Grandma put something strange in it when you were in the bathroom." I froze, spoon midway to my mouth as my daughter's words registered. My mother was watching me intently, an unreadable expression on her face. "What's wrong, Hazel?" she asked, her voice unusually high. "Don't you like lemon?" I set my spoon down slowly. "Actually, Mom, I'm still working on my main course. I'll save dessert for later." Throughout the remainder of dinner, I couldn't shake the unease that had settled over me. What had Lily seen? My mother's behavior seemed more erratic than usual. Her hands fidgeting, her gaze never quite meeting mine. Could my 7-year-old be misinterpreting something innocent, or was there something more sinister at play? After helping with the dishes, I casually suggested that my father take Lily to see the birdhouse while I helped my mother finish in the kitchen. Once they were out of earshot, I turned to confront her. "Mom, what did you put in my dessert?" She dropped a serving spoon, the clatter against the tile floor echoing through the kitchen. "I don't know what you're talking about." Her voice was steady, but her hands betrayed her, trembling as she bent to retrieve the spoon. "Lily saw you put something in it. Just tell me what it was." My mother's face crumpled, aging her 10 years in an instant. "It was nothing harmful, Hazel. Just a little something to help you sleep. You look so tired lately, and I thought, you drugged my food?" The betrayal stung sharper than I could have imagined. Without my knowledge or consent? "It was just a crushed sleeping pill. You've been working too hard, not taking care of yourself. I was worried about you driving back tomorrow." I stepped back, creating distance between us in the narrow kitchen. "That's not your decision to make. I'm your mother. I've always known what's best for you." Her voice hardened, the vulnerability vanishing as quickly as it had appeared. "No, you've always thought you knew what was best. There's a difference." I walked out of the kitchen, needing space to process this violation of trust. Outside, Lily's laughter mingled with my father's deeper chuckle as they examined the birdhouse. The normality of the scene contrasted sharply with the storm brewing inside me. How many other times had my mother taken such liberties? What else didn't I know? We stayed the night as planned, though I couldn't bring myself to engage in the usual evening rituals. No reminiscing over photo albums, no game of Scrabble where my mother inevitably dominated with obscure words she'd memorized from the dictionary. Instead, I claimed a headache and retreated to my childhood bedroom with Lily, where we read stories until her eyelids grew heavy. My old room remained frozen in time: debate trophies, high school pennants, and a bulletin board covered with faded photos of friends whose names I barely remembered. I sat on the edge of the twin bed long after Lily fell asleep, turning the evening's events over in my mind. Sleep eluded me. Around midnight, I crept downstairs for a glass of water, only to hear hushed voices from the living room. "She's making too much of this," my mother was saying. "It was one pill, Richard. One. To help her rest. Margaret, you can't medicate people without their knowledge." My father's voice was uncharacteristically firm. "It's wrong, and you know it. I've done it before and no one complained." I nearly dropped my glass. The words sent ice through my veins. "What do you mean, done it before?" My father echoed my thoughts. A pause. "Nothing." I misspoke. But something in her tone made me suspect she hadn't misspoken at all. How many times had I felt unusually drowsy after meals at my parents' house? How many times had I attributed it to the comfort food, the long drive, the emotional exhaustion that family visits often entailed? I backed away from the doorway, not wanting to be caught eavesdropping, but my mind was racing. If my mother had been slipping me sleeping pills, what else might she have done over the years? The next morning over breakfast, the tension was palpable. My father buried himself in his newspaper, my mother busied herself with unnecessary kitchen tasks, and I focused on helping Lily with her pancakes. The elephant in the room grew larger with each passing minute. "Mom," I finally said, "we need to talk about last night. There's nothing to discuss." She didn't turn from the sink where she was scrubbing an already clean pan. "You put medication in my food without my knowledge. That's not nothing." My father lowered his newspaper, a silent signal that he wouldn't be ignoring this conversation. "I was trying to help," my mother insisted, finally turning to face me. "You've been running yourself ragged since the divorce, working too much, taking care of Lily alone, not sleeping enough. I was worried." Then talk to me. Don't drug me. Would you have listened? You never listened to me, Hazel. You've always been so stubborn, thinking you know better than everyone else. Lily looked up from her pancakes, eyes wide at the escalating tension. My father cleared his throat. Lilypad, want to help me check on the birdhouse again? I think I heard some birds moving in this morning. Once they were gone, I faced my mother directly. This isn't the first time, is it? Her silence was damning. How long, Mom? How many times have you slipped something into my food or drinks? She sank into a kitchen chair, suddenly looking older than her 66 years. It started when you were in high school, the panic attacks before your debates. The doctor prescribed anxiety medication, but you refused to take it. Because I wanted to learn to manage my anxiety, not mask it with pills. You were 16. What did you know about managing anything? Her voice rose, then she visibly reined herself in. I crushed the pills into your orange juice. You performed beautifully at the state championship. The memory of that debate, how surprisingly calm I'd felt, how fluid my arguments had been, took on a sinister new light. That wasn't your decision to make. It worked, didn't it? You won. Got the scholarship. That's not the point. I struggled to keep my voice down. What else, Mom? When else did you decide to take my agency away? She looked away, guilt written across her features. Before your wedding, you were having second thoughts about David. I knew it was just nerves. My blood ran cold. You drugged me on my wedding day? Just a mild anti-anxiety medication in your champagne. You were panicking, saying David wasn't right for you, that you were making a mistake. But I knew better. He was perfect. Stable job, good family, wanted children. I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. So you decided to chemically override my concerns. Concerns that turned out to be completely valid, by the way, given that he left me for his 24-year-old assistant. How was I supposed to know he'd cheat? Nobody can predict that. That's not... I stopped, a horrible thought occurring to me. Lily. Have you ever given anything to Lily? The flicker in her eyes told me everything before she could deny it. Once, she admitted quietly. Last Christmas, when she was overtired and having a tantrum. Just a little children's Benadryl in her hot chocolate to help her sleep. The room seemed to tilt. You drugged my child? My 7-year-old daughter? She was exhausted. You were letting her stay up too late and she needed rest. I stood up so quickly my chair toppled backward. We're leaving. Now. Don't be dramatic, Hazel. You're overreacting. Overreacting? You've been drugging me. Drugging my daughter. And you think I'm overreacting? My voice shook with rage. You don't get to make these decisions for us. Ever. I stormed out to the backyard where Lily was helping my father refill the bird feeder. Lily, honey, we need to go. My father looked up, concern etched on his weathered face. Hazel, what's happening? Ask your wife, I snapped, immediately regretting my tone but too upset to apologize. Lily, please go get your backpack. Once Lily was out of earshot, my father stepped closer. Talk to me, Hazel. Did you know? About the medications she's been slipping me over the years? His stunned expression answered for him. What are you talking about? Mom just admitted to drugging me multiple times, in high school, on my wedding day, and even giving Lily Benadryl without my permission at Christmas. My father's face paled. Margaret did what? You really didn't know? The realization that my father had been in the dark offered small comfort. He shook his head slowly. No, I had no idea. Hazel, I'm so... Save it, I cut him off. I need to get Lily away from here. I turned to see my mother standing in the doorway, her face a mask of righteous indignation. You're making a mountain out of a molehill, Hazel. Everything I've ever done has been for your own good. That's the problem, Mom. You don't get to decide what's for my own good. Not anymore. I gathered our belongings while Lily said goodbye to my father, pointedly ignoring my mother's attempts to hug her granddaughter. Within 20 minutes, we were back in the car, heading toward the interstate. Mom, why are we leaving early? Lily asked, confusion evident in her voice. Did I do something wrong? I met her eyes in the rearview mirror. No, sweetheart. You did something very right. You told me the truth about what you saw, and that was very brave. Is Grandma in trouble? I sighed, unsure how to explain the situation to a 7-year-old. Grandma made some choices that weren't okay. Sometimes adults make mistakes too, and there need to be consequences. Like when I broke your necklace and couldn't watch TV for a week. Despite everything, I smiled. Something like that? Yes. As we drove away from the town where I'd grown up, I felt both liberated and adrift. The foundation of my relationship with my mother, indeed my understanding of my own past, had been irrevocably shaken. How many of my life's decisions had been influenced by my mother's secret interventions? How much of what I thought was my own agency had actually been chemically manipulated? For 3 weeks after our abrupt departure, my phone buzzed constantly with calls and texts from my parents. My father left apologetic voicemails, assuring me he'd had no knowledge of my mother's actions and begging me to talk. My mother's messages alternated between defensive justifications and guilt-inducing pleas about family loyalty. I ignored them all, focusing instead on work and creating a sense of stability for Lily. But questions continued to haunt me. If my mother had been willing to drug me during pivotal moments of my life, what else might she have manipulated? What other choices hadn't truly been mine? Dr. Thornton, you have a visitor, my secretary announced one Tuesday afternoon as I was reviewing patient files at the hospital. Says he's your father? I looked up, startled. My father is here? She nodded. In the waiting area. Should I tell him you're busy? Part of me wanted to say yes, to continue the silent treatment that felt safer than confrontation. But the rational part of my brain, the part that had gotten me through medical school, residency, and the divorce, knew avoidance solved nothing. I'll see him. Give me 5 minutes. When I entered the waiting area, my father stood by the window, his normally straight posture slightly hunched. He looked older, wearier than he had just weeks ago. Dad, I said simply, not quite ready for warmth. He turned, relief washing over his face. Hazel, thank you for seeing me. You came all this way. It would be petty to turn you away. Can we talk somewhere private? I led him to the hospital cafeteria, relatively empty at 3 in the afternoon. Over coffee that neither of us touched, he folded his hands on the table. Your mother and I are in counseling, he began. After you left, I confronted her about everything you said. She admitted it all, plus more I hadn't known about. More? My stomach tightened. He nodded grimly. She's been adding crushed anxiety medication to my coffee for years. Said it was to help manage my temper. I don't even have a temper, Hazel. I'm just direct. The revelation shouldn't have surprised me, yet it did. I'm sorry, Dad. No, I'm sorry. I should have known. Should have protected you. His voice cracked. Something I'd witnessed perhaps twice in my entire life. The therapist says your mother has control issues stemming from her own childhood. Apparently, her mother was similar, manipulative, overbearing. That explains it, but doesn't excuse it. No, it doesn't. He reached across the table, not quite touching my hand, but close enough that I could see the slight tremor in his fingers. She's been diagnosed with a personality disorder. The therapist thinks with medication, properly prescribed and taken willingly, and therapy, she can learn healthier ways to manage her anxiety about control. I let his words sink in. My mother, the pillar of propriety, the woman who considered therapy a crutch for the weak-willed, was now in counseling herself. Has she stopped? The drugging? Yes. I've been watching her like a hawk, and I've taken control of all medications in the house. A humorless laugh escaped him. I even bought one of those locked pill organizers. Never thought I'd need that at my age. I finally took a sip of my cooling coffee. I'm not ready to bring Lily around her again. I can't trust Mom with my daughter. I understand completely. He nodded solemnly. I wouldn't ask that of you, but I was hoping maybe you'd consider talking to her? On the phone first, perhaps. She's genuinely remorseful, Hazel. Is she? Or is she just sorry she got caught? Both, probably, he admitted with unexpected candor. But the therapist is helping her understand the gravity of what she did. How it violated your trust, your autonomy. I studied my father's face. The deep lines around his eyes, the gray stubble he'd never allowed before. This situation was aging him rapidly. "I'll think about it," I finally offered. "No promises. That's all I ask." He hesitated, then added, "How's Lily?" "She's okay. Confused about why we left so suddenly, why we haven't visited. She misses you." "I miss her too." His voice roughened. "And you, Hazel." For the first time since discovering my mother's betrayal, I felt the sting of tears. I miss the idea of what our family was supposed to be, but I'm not sure that family ever really existed. Maybe not. But perhaps we can build something new, something honest. After he left, I sat alone in the cafeteria, turning our conversation over in my mind. Could there be reconciliation after such a profound breach of trust? Was it even healthy to try? That evening, after putting Lily to bed, I poured myself a glass of wine and did something I'd been avoiding for weeks. I called my best friend, Claire. "Finally!" she exclaimed when she heard my voice. "I was about to file a missing persons report. Sorry for going AWOL. It's been complicated." "Spill it. All of it." So I did, recounting everything from Lily's whispered warning to my father's visit earlier that day. Claire listened without interruption, a rare feat for her. "Holy shit, Hazel," she breathed when I finished. "That's some serious Lifetime movie material. Tell me about it. What are you going to do? About your mom, I mean." I swirled the wine in my glass. "I don't know. Part of me wants to write her off completely, but another part recognizes she's still your mother," Claire finished for me. "And now that you know she has a personality disorder, you feel obligated to be understanding." Something like that. Plus, there's Lily to consider. She adores her grandparents, despite everything. But you can't let your kid around someone who might drug her again. Exactly. Claire was silent for a moment. "You know what this reminds me of? That pediatric case you told me about last year. The grandmother who kept making her grandkid sick for attention. Munchausen by proxy," I supplied. "But that's different. My mother wasn't making me sick for attention. She thought she was helping. The road to hell, good intentions, all that jazz," Claire said. "Listen, as your designated best friend, I need to remind you that you don't owe your mother instant forgiveness just because she has a diagnosis now. You're allowed to take time." Her words loosened something in my chest. "Thanks for the permission. Any time. That's what I'm here for. Permission to feel your feelings and unlimited wine refills." After we hung up, I found myself doing something I hadn't done since discovering my mother's betrayal. I looked at old family photos. There we were at the beach when I was 10, my mother helping me build a sandcastle. My high school graduation, her arm around my shoulders, pride evident in her smile. My wedding day, both of us radiant, unaware of my chemically suppressed doubts. Had it all been a lie? Or was there genuine love beneath the control and manipulation? The next morning, I made a decision. I would call my mother, not to offer forgiveness, but to begin a conversation, to understand why she'd done what she'd done, and to make it absolutely clear what boundaries would need to be respected if she wanted a relationship with me and Lily moving forward. It wouldn't be easy. It might not even work. But for Lily's sake, for my own peace of mind, and yes, even for my flawed mother, I had to try. The phone call with my mother was as difficult as I'd anticipated. Her initial defensiveness, I only did what any good mother would do, gradually gave way to genuine remorse as I firmly held my ground. "I need you to understand something, Mom," I said after listening to her justifications. "What you did wasn't love. It was control. Real love respects the other person's autonomy, even when you disagree with their choices." A long silence followed. "I don't know how to love any other way," she finally admitted, her voice small. "It's how my mother loved me. Then you need to learn. If you want a relationship with me and Lily, that's non-negotiable." "I'm trying, Hazel. The therapy, it's hard. Facing yourself at my age isn't easy." For the first time, I felt a flicker of compassion for her. "I know it's not, but it's necessary." We agreed to weekly phone calls, just the two of us, while she continued therapy. I made it clear that any in-person visits with Lily would be supervised and would only happen when I felt confident my mother understood and respected appropriate boundaries. The months that followed were a delicate dance of rebuilding trust in microscopic increments. My father visited Boston occasionally, taking Lily for ice cream or to the Children's Museum while I worked. These visits gave my daughter some connection to her grandparents without putting her at risk. 6 months after the fateful dinner, my mother's therapist suggested a family session. I agreed reluctantly, arranging for Lily to stay with Claire while I drove to Connecticut alone. The therapist's office was nothing like I'd imagined, warm and inviting, with comfortable furniture and soft lighting. My parents were already seated when I arrived, my mother visibly nervous, fidgeting with her wedding ring. "Thank you for coming, Dr. Thornton." The therapist, Dr. Bennett, greeted me. "I know this isn't easy." I nodded, taking a seat across from my parents. "I'm here because I want to understand." Dr. Bennett guided the conversation skillfully, creating a space where my mother could acknowledge her actions without excuses, and where I could express my hurt without accusation. My father, too, had revelations about his role as an unwitting enabler. "I didn't want to see what was happening," he admitted. "It was easier to believe everything was fine than to confront the problems in our family." Toward the end of the session, my mother pulled a small notebook from her purse. "I've been keeping track," she said, handing it to me. "Every time I felt the urge to control a situation, yours or anyone else's, I wrote it down instead. What triggered it, what I was feeling, what I wanted to do, and what I actually did instead." I opened the notebook, surprised by the detailed entries. Dozens of them, spanning months. Many included the phrase, "called Dr. Bennett instead," or used breathing techniques. "It's still hard," my mother said quietly. "Every day is a battle against these impulses. But I'm fighting, Hazel. For you, for Lily, for myself." The notebook wasn't proof of change, not yet. But it was evidence of effort, of awareness. It was a start. After the session, we had lunch at a small cafe near the therapist's office. The conversation was stilted at times, but without the undercurrent of manipulation that had characterized our interactions for years. "I'd like to try again," I said as we finished our meal. "A dinner, at your house, with Lily." My mother's eyes widened. "Really?" "With conditions," I added quickly. "I'll help prepare the food. All of it, and I'll be watching." "Of course," she agreed immediately. "Whatever makes you comfortable." 2 weeks later, Lily and I made the familiar drive to Connecticut. This time, my anxiety stemmed not from the usual familial tensions, but from uncertainty about whether I was making the right decision. Was I being naive to give my mother another chance, or would denying that chance be its own form of cruelty? When we arrived, my father greeted us with restrained joy, careful not to overwhelm Lily with his enthusiasm. My mother hung back, her usual confident demeanor replaced by tentative hopefulness. "Hi, Grandma," Lily said, approaching her cautiously. "Hello, sweetheart," my mother replied, not moving to hug her but waiting for Lily's cue. Lily studied her grandmother for a moment, then offered a small smile. "Dad got me a chemistry set for my birthday. It has real test tubes." My mother's face lit up. "That sounds wonderful. Perhaps you could show me after dinner." As promised, I helped prepare the meal, watching as my mother measured ingredients and chopped vegetables. No surreptitious additions, no suspicious movements. Just a woman trying to cook a meal for her family. Dinner was subdued compared to previous visits, but not unpleasant. My father talked about his new woodworking project, building a dollhouse for Lily. My mother shared stories from her garden club, carefully avoiding any topics that might create tension. After dessert, store-bought ice cream that I served, Lily set up her chemistry set on the kitchen table. My mother watched with genuine interest as Lily demonstrated a simple color-changing experiment. "You know," my mother said, "your mom used to love science experiments too. She turned our kitchen blue once with a volcano experiment that went awry." "You did?" Lily looked at me with newfound respect. I laughed, the memory surfacing unexpectedly. "I was trying to make the biggest volcano ever for the science fair. I didn't realize food coloring would stain so badly. It took weeks to scrub the ceiling, my mother added, a nostalgic smile playing at her lips. As Lily continued her demonstration, I stepped outside onto the back porch, needing a moment alone. The evening had been easier than expected, but emotionally exhausting nonetheless. My father joined me a few minutes later, leaning against the railing beside me. We stood in comfortable silence, watching the fireflies emerge in the gathering dusk. "Your mother has good days and bad days," he said finally. "Today was a good day. But there are still times when her anxiety takes over and she falls back into old patterns of thinking. I know healing isn't linear, Dad." "No, it's not." He turned to face me. "I want you to know I'm vigilant now. I see what I was blind to before. If she ever tries anything like that again, I'll be the first to tell you." I believed him. "Thank you. We've missed so much of Lily's life these past months. Of your life. We have a lot of rebuilding to do," I acknowledged. "Trust doesn't come back overnight." "But it can come back?" I thought about my mother inside, the genuine joy on her face as she watched Lily's experiment, the effort she was making in therapy, the notebook filled with her struggles and small victories. "I think so. With time. With work." I hesitated, then added, "with honesty." When we returned inside, my mother and Lily were cleaning up the chemistry set together, their heads bent close as they carefully returned each vial to its proper place. "Mom," Lily called when she saw me, "Grandma says she'll help me plant a butterfly garden at our apartment. Can we, please?" I met my mother's gaze over Lily's head. She looked uncertain, aware she'd overstepped by making the suggestion without consulting me first. "I should have asked you first," she said quickly. "Old habits. I'm sorry." The apology was simple, but significant. An acknowledgement of a boundary crossed. A step toward change. "Actually," I said, "a butterfly garden sounds perfect. Maybe we can start planning it together." The relief on my mother's face was palpable. Not because she'd gotten her way, but because she'd been given another chance to do better. As we prepared to leave that evening, my mother handed me a small package. "It's not much," she said. "Just something I thought you might like to have." Inside was a framed photograph I'd never seen before, me at about Lily's age, sitting on my mother's lap as we read a book together. Both of us laughing, caught in a moment of genuine connection. "I'm trying to remember that this is what matters," my mother said softly. "Not control, not perfection, just love, real love." I touched the photograph gently. It's a good reminder for all of us. The drive home that night felt different from the abrupt departure months earlier. The future of our family remained uncertain, fraught with challenges as my mother continued her therapeutic journey, and I worked through my own trust issues. But for the first time, I felt hope that what would emerge from the ashes of our old relationship might be something healthier, something truer. As Lily dozed in the back seat, I thought about the power of a child's simple warning, "Mommy, don't eat that," and how those words had set in motion a painful but necessary unraveling. Sometimes it takes a child's clarity to reveal the adult deceptions we've normalized for too long. The road ahead would be long, with inevitable setbacks and difficult conversations. But tonight, watching the highway lights illuminate my sleeping daughter's face, I was grateful for the chance to build something new, something honest, something real.